This is Ari Koretsky, and welcome to Jews You Should Know, introducing the broader community to interesting and inspiring Jewish men and women making a difference in our world. Some are already famous, some not yet so, but each is a Jew you should know.
We are back with another fabulous episode of Jews You Should Know. Happy Hanukkah to all, if you're listening when we are releasing this first. And the truth is, there's a great reason that this particular episode is coinciding with Hanukkah, although, of course, we recorded it quite some time ago, as we normally do. Asher Halberstam is from a great Chassidic dynasty, the Sans Bubov dynasty. He's one of 15 children in his own family, but as somebody who is the scion of such a large and dynastic family, he's become extremely interested in the subject of genealogy, and not only in the academic sense, but in terms of popularizing it, bringing its fruits to the broader Jewish public and really the broader American public, creating templates that people can produce in a beautiful way and highlight in their homes. Asher is the founder and CEO of Trembly, that is a mashup of family tree and the word family, so trembly.com. And they've recently launched, it's an incredible service akin to Ancestry or Jenny that you'll find online, but with quite a few added features, and coming soon, a unique platform, particularly for Jewish families. So Hanukkah, of course, the time we celebrate Jewish family, the traditions, that which we fought so hard for as a young nation and continue to hold dear thousands of years later. Really excited to bring you this episode today, again, launching it right in the heart of Hanukkah. But of course, whenever you listen, it's timely and resonant. Meanwhile, speaking of timely and resonant, if you have not done so already, reminder to follow us on social media at Jews You Should Know, spelled out fully on Instagram and Facebook, Jews You Should Know with the letter U on Twitter. Subscribe or follow wherever you're listening, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, any podcast platform. Please share this podcast with others and encourage them to subscribe or follow as well. Comments or questions to jewsyoushouldknow@gmail.com. And now to our conversation with Trembly founder and CEO, Asher Halberstam. We're here with Asher Halberstam, the founder of Trembly and a genealogy expert, someone who's very passionate about bringing the power and the meaning of genealogy to the broader Jewish community. How are you, Asher?
Baruch Hashem, thank you for having me online. I really appreciate it to meet you, Rabbi Koretsky. And it's for me a very big honor to speak to a big audience about my major vision, what I have. And Baruch Hashem, thank God we are already up and running. And I would love to talk about it.
Fabulous. And that we will. But first, we're going to talk about you a little bit and where you're from and your background. So tell us a little bit about your own personal story. Where did it all begin?
Oh, well, that's the truth is that the whole Trembly subject is really from where I come from. It's from where I was brought up, and that's why I'm really in this business. Okay, so I'm one of 15. My father, mother, my father's Roche, and my mother's Zangezint is they're very illustrious people. They are. And they have a big family, and I'm the sixth one of the family. And my father, let's start up with my father, because this is from where it's coming. The whole thing comes up from. I'm coming from, and from where the whole business is coming from. My father is a Holocaust survivor. He is coming from the town of Gribov. Gribov is a small town near Sons. Sons is a famous town that has very big Rabbonim, the sons of the Divrei Chaim, and then his son, and all the way to my father. And actually, my father, as a small boy, was called as the successor of this Rabbonis of Sons. So the war broke out when he was about 15 and a half years old. He was about to go to Yachal, Yeshiva of Chachma Lavin. He was a very big genius, my father, as a child. And he learned Yeridai as a small boy. He was mamish phenomenal. He has a phenomenal mind. And at small, he was learning with his father a lot. And the war broke out, so they have to escape. So they went to Lemberg, Boiberik, and from there the Russians took them all to Siberia, as everybody knows, and that was their Hatzalah, because he was not under the Nazis, Yamach Shemam. He was under the Russians, which was bad enough, but still not under Germany. Over there in Siberia, my father's father was left in Gribov. He did not run together with my grandmother and my father's siblings. So my father and his siblings and his mother all went to Siberia alone. And my father is the oldest, so he was the one that was in charge of everything. And they came to Siberia. He was a very frum boy. He was strong with his background, with his upbringing. And it was very hard for him to Shmir Shabbos and eating only koshers. And it was really, really a very big hardship. And from the whole crowd over there in this ghetto where he was, I don't know how they called it, was about a couple of thousand people over there. He was the only child, literally the only child that didn't eat a trifus and held Shabbos.
Non-kosher food.
Right, non-kosher food. He was the only one that did not eat non-kosher food. Right. Now, the big question was how in the world he was possible to have Shmir Shabbos, to observe Shabbos, the Shabbat. How was a boy of 16 years old, 17 years old possible when in Russia everybody has to work and there's no way out? And if you don't work, you're not getting to eat. So he was the oldest of the family. My grandmother, she was accepted from work because she was a mother of children, but everybody who was capable to work had to work. So my father was in the age of capable to work and he was not working and he did not get to eat. How did he do it? Because the truth is he was brainstorming how to do it and he came up with a brilliant idea. He was actually working, but he always in his whole life was busy with patenting things, new inventions, and things that nobody knows how to do. So over there in Siberia, found a old ship from metal. So he came up with an idea how to do locks, to create locks with these metals. And he went to the supervisor over there and he told him, hey, I know how to do locks. Yes, okay, let me see. And he made something that looks like a lock. I don't know if it worked or not, but at least it was a lock. So the supervisor said, okay, go ahead. You will be providing locks. So he made a factory of locks. He had a lot of Jews working for him, and he made sure that Shabbos, nothing was being done. So everybody was, he and all his workers were able to observe the Shabbat. So it was amazing. So till he got to this stage to observe the Shabbat, he did not get what to eat. So he got sick, he got blind, and it was miracles of miracles how he took it over. And in fact, he was a young boy and still stood fast, strong with his beliefs and with his upbringing. And that's the way he went through the Siberia with this film. He had lines of people to put on film in the morning, early morning on his film, because he was, I don't know if the only one, but at least some of the only ones in the whole ghetto that had film. So he was really, 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 as a young boy, we're talking about 16, 17, 18, 19 years old boy, he was really strong in it. Then, I don't want to talk about my father the whole time. We have an objection to come to the Trembly, but at least we need to get from where this Trembly comes from. Then they went from Siberia, they went to Samarkand. After the liberation of Siberia, after Germany went to war with Soviet Union, then they liberated all the Polish refugees, all the Polish prisoners, which were in Siberia, and they could have go to everywhere in Russia. So the from people went to Samarkand. I don't know how the country is called today. It's not Russia. It's Uzbek. I don't remember the name of the country. at least over there, he was already older. He was about 22. I don't know exactly how old he was. First of all, he had a chavrusa that he learned almost most of the Shas, most of Talmud. He learned with this chavrusa in those times. He got the certificate of shchita because he didn't know what will happen, how will he eat kosher meat. So first of the things, he took certification of shchita, of slaughtering. He should be able to eat meat. And besides that, he came up with a patent how to weave cloth. He made tzitzis, he made, he came up with a patent that he was the only person, the whole Samarkand, that knew how to do it. He had a company together with Lubavitcher Chassid. He was the person that was weaving, and the other guy was the person that made the I don't know exactly, but it was really, it made a lot of money over there in Samarkand. What do you think he did with the money? First of all, he opened his mother's house and brought in a lot of poor people that he gave to eat. And then he sent money for a lot of people that they should be able to, for Atzola, to get themselves out of where they are. They should get to the free world. So he sent a lot of money to Gedolei Yisrael, to Chebinerov, to other tzaddikim. And he himself also was freed by his money that he had. He had false passports and so on. So he went out from Russia before everybody else went out because he had the money for it. So in his whole life, he was brainstorming new ideas, how to give something for Klal Yisrael. So he came to America. First of all, the first thing he came Chalamite Sikis, he came. Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, he was in the yeshiva already. He was a boy of 25 years old already.
In other words, about a week or two later from landing in America, he was already studying in the yeshiva.
Studying in the yeshiva, right? He was, even though he didn't learn the yeshiva till then, because he was in Siberia and Samarkand, but then he went for Faher. How do you say Faher?
An entrance exam.
Yes, so they saw that he's very clever and very smart. So they put him in the highest class because of his level of understanding. And after 1.5 years, literally 1.5 years, he got smicha. He was ordained as a Rav, and by Rabbi Grossman, he was the Rosh Yeshiva in Torah Tamimim in Lubavitch. He was learning Lubavitch, and the Rabbi Grossman was still in, before the war, he was in the Bezin of Rab Chaim Oizer of Wilna. Was the biggest Goinim of before the war, and he was a Rosh Yeshiva in Lubavitch at that time, and he gave him smicha for Rabbanos, and even got a letter from the Rayatz, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he should accept Rabbanos, and he should follow up succeed his grandfathers, fathers and grandfathers lineage to become a Rav of sons and all this. So in fact, he didn't have the capability to become a Rav because he had to give to eat for his mother and his siblings, and had to bring money on the table. But he wanted to be only in the Torah line, only in holy things. So he became a printer, printing Jewish books. So first he went to work for a different company. Then in a short while later, he learned the whole gimmick, the whole thing, and he made a own printing company, and he was printing only Jewish books. And for Jewish books, he was the one that went through the whole sefer, the whole book. He made sure there's no mistakes, meaning that he understood whatever is said in the books. So it was part of his learning, and he made his living with it. In those years, he was trying to see what he can do for Klal Yisrael. He was printing 44 old books, believe it or not, 44 old books couldn't find in the stores at that time because they were outprinted. He printed 44 of those books in 1.5 years. He bounded it himself. He didn't give it to a binding company. He printed it, bounded it in 1.5 years. and he gave it out for the Rabbanim, for the libraries. It should be available. That's one thing what he did. Then my mother always describes how he was waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, writing. So he was trying to, at that time, to make a Shittim Mekabetzes. That's one of the books that takes together all the Rishonim,
medieval scholars, yeah.
It's
right? A collection of medieval scholars on the different tractates of the Talmud.
But some tractates does not have. It was not made on some tractates. So he was trying to do it. So he was actually connecting to Oxford University and the universities in Israel, the libraries, was getting manuscripts of all these places. And he flew even to London for that. And they actually came to him because they were the librarians were very excited what he was doing. He has letters from those librarians, top librarians of Oxford, and so on. But in fact, he was too busy with this whole thing. So in fact, it didn't come out with whatever he was planning to. But he was then, at that time, he was very busy that Germany cut off Klal Yisrael. It was very hurtful thing that happened to Klal Yisrael, that Am Yisrael was cut off from the previous generations, and it was so I was thinking, how can he connect the people now that hopefully he was thinking that a new generation will come up with new Jews and everything will flourish, a new Jewish community, United States, United Israel. But how will they connect to the previous generations? How will the Messiah, how do you say Messiah, follow up?
The
tradition follow up with the previous generations. He came up with an idea that at that time, it was still not available. Now we know there's Jenny, Ancestry, My Heritage, all these websites that has genealogy. So he was thinking of doing a genealogy program. He wasn't thinking of website because no website was available at that time. We're talking about 70, 80 years ago. He came to United States on 1948. And really a short time after that was starting to work on this project. He was calling it the World Jewish Genealogy Organization. And he was collecting all the books that had genealogy information from past war, was collecting them. And he actually designed a program that was unexisting at that time. And he designed a program that would collect all the information and put them together and make a ancestry tree, a yichus tree, a lineage tree that would connect one to the other, even though you don't know, you know only your father, your grandfather, but the computer knows already your grandfather's father. So the computer will connect all the way up. The same thing that Jenny and all these other computer programs are doing online now. He actually made this program in his office in Borough Park. And at that time, the computers were big refrigerators. It took a whole room that would take his computer. And he had a problem at that time that Hebrew wasn't available on computers at that time. It was really the early ages of computers. And he even flew to Eretz Yisrael to have a Hebrew computer. He couldn't find, even in Eretz Yisrael, a proper computer that would work to the same computer to write Hebrew and English, and then to translate, to understand languages and translate Hebrew to English. And so the opposite. So he designed himself a computer, believe it or not, the first ever computer that would have Hebrew text in it. And me, myself, when I was a boy, 15 years old, designed the Hebrew letters for my father's computer. We sat on a grid and dotted the grid a way that it should look like a letter. And then he programmed it that this is the Aleph, this is a Beis, this is a Gimel, and so on. So he actually designed his own letters that was unexisting at that time, and he had a switch on the computer that would change the typing from English to Hebrew. Well, this was he had letters from the Library of Congress and from all the New York big Hebrew libraries that were asking him to give them the program to be able to, the computer should write Hebrew, to use the translations of Hebrew to English, because it wasn't existing. So he was brainstorming in his early years in the United States how to bring together Klal Yisrael. So this was his venture, was his idea. He made a program for genealogy, to bring together genealogy. But he wasn't really satisfied with that, because the way it was printed was printed like in pages. You know, I got genealogy tree for my chasana, a whole book of a couple hundred pages. It started from myself, then it went my fathers, mothers, whatever, to the end. You know, all different ways you could go. It went like pages after pages after pages. There was an index with it in the back, every name which page you can find it. It was phenomenal how it did. It's unbelievable. But he had a problem. He was thinking, how can a person put on his wall a genealogy tree? That's a book that goes in the bookcase. But how can I put it in the wall? So because myself, I was, as a young boy, my father saw that I had a talent of art. I was an artist, and everything in our family that need to be drawn, I was the boy that did it. So he told me, Usher, can you please come up with a way that I should be able to have printed a nice family tree? I told my father, Tati, I don't think this is possible, because it's very complicated. Every family tree is different. So how can you make a family tree that every family tree should fit in it? You know, it's like it's a thing that wouldn't work. So he told me, you just try, and he paid me for doing it. And I was trying, and unfortunately, it didn't work. But the idea was in my mind already. And that day that he told me to do it, it was in my mind that this is a thing that has to be done someday. Okay, so he saw that he can't do it. He was just following up with whatever he does in a book, and he was making genealogies for people. So that's my father's story about genealogy.
Just as an aside, where was your mother's family from? Does she also have a very robust and illustrious?
She has an illustrious family, but not so rabbinical that my father. My father has a rabbish family. My father himself, he was the Sons of Rebbe in Borough Park. You know, it's not what we need to discuss over here, but he was himself. His father was a Rebbe. His grandfather was a Rebbe. All his size. His mother's father was a Rebbe.
And can you just describe for a minute, because the name Halberstam is a very dynastic rabbinic name in the Chassidic world. Maybe just say a little bit about what the sects of Chassidic Jews were that the Halberstam family was associated with, and what was unique about it.
Oh, okay. For this itself, you can have a separate interview, but at least let me tell it to you in short. The Divrei Chaim, the Sons of Rupp, passed away in Tufreish Lamed Vov. That was, I don't know which year it was in English. It was 140 years ago. He passed away. He was an old man. He had 14 kids. He had 7 sons and 7 daughters. He had actually 8 sons. One son was nifter as a child. But from 7 sons, he has grandchildren. Okay, his oldest son was the Shinoverov, Reb Cheskel Shrager. He was the main successor of Hasidim after the Divrei Chaim. Divrei Chaim was of the biggest rabbis at his time. He was in Galicia, Poland. They lived in Sons. And his son, the oldest son, was the Preskeshrager, was the Shinoverov, also in Galicia. Now, my grandfather, great-great-great-grandfather, was his fourth son. His name was Reb Aaron. Reb Aaron was actually named as the Rav of Sons. His father ordained him as the Rav of Sons when the Sanzer was 60 years old. He was 60 years old. He was already older. He was a big Rebbe. He couldn't handle all the rabbinic things that has to be done, chasanas and achshayrim, mikvot, and everything else that has to be done in a city. But because he was busy with Avodas Hashem, with Hasidim, with people came to him from all over the world, writing chivas. How do you say chivas in English?
Responsa
for the whole world, and he couldn't handle the city, so he took his son. At that time, it was his fourth son. The older sons was already Rabbanim at that time, so Rabban lived in sons. So he took him. He should help him with the Rabbanos. So he was 90 years while the Rechaim was living. He was already the Rav of sons. After the Rechaim passed away, so Rabban proceeded with the Rabbanos and sons. Was a very great tzaddik, and it's not here the place to talk about his greatness. Then his son, his name was Rabbi Leibish, was the successor of sons, also a big Rebbe, a great Rebbe. Had a lot of Hasidim, a lot of Rebbes came to him. His son was named Ramat Chezev. He was the last Rebbe in Rav and Sons when the war broke out, and he got killed in the ghetto of Tarnow. His son, which was Reb Baruch, was my father's father. He was the Rav of Gribov. Ramat Chezev was also Rav of Gribov before he became Rav of Sons, and the same was Rabbi Leibish was Rav of Gribov before he became Rav of Sons. So Reb Baruch was, during the week, he helped his father with the Rabbanos and Sons, and the weekends he was in Gribov, taking care of the Rabbanos in Gribov, and there was where my father was. He wasn't born in Gribov, but he was brought up in Gribov and in Sons. That's Sons. Then there is Bobov, the big Bobov dynasty, which has a lot of Chassidim today. And there's Kishanov, there is Godlitz, which the Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael, the Klosenberger Rebbe, he's a big Rebbe now. He has a lot of thousands of Chassidim. He has in Eretz Yisrael, there's a Klosenberger Rebbe. There's in the United States a Klosenberger Rebbe, and they have thousands of Chassidim. There's a lot of people that belong to the Sons of Dynasty today that are Chassidim on various Rebbes that come from the dynasty of Sons. And me, myself, my siblings, my father, are the only Rebbes that are the dynasty from the Sons of Rabbanos, meaning from all the way Sons, all the way till the war. And here we are. I answered your question about Sons.
Is there anything in particular about, let's say, the practices or the focus within the Jewish experience that's unique about that particular sect of Hasidic Jews?
There's Menhagim that is different, but that's not exactly what you're looking for. Yes, there's two major things that is different than other Hasidus or other Rebbes from pre-war. One is that the Sanzerov was a big Godel, was a big Talmud Chacham, was the Gaon Adar, and he was asking and was requiring his Hasidim to learn. Everybody requires to learn. That's the basic of Klal Yisrael, to learn. But
so a greater emphasis on Torah study.
On Torah study, right? That's one thing. But the other thing is, which is even more important in Sons, is that the Sons of Rav was very extreme. I don't know if here's the place to talk about it, but if you ask a question, I'll answer it very shortly. He was very extreme, meaning that he didn't make any shoras in Yiddishkeit. So you translate it in English.
Uncompromising
Yiddishkeit, right. So that was very, very strong in Sons, more than other places. So I think that's the most I would want to say over here.
Okay, fabulous. So now, moving forward, you're one of 15 children, and you sort of got tasked with being the representative of your father's vision? Was it mostly because of your artistic ability?
Let me put it in the right perspective. My oldest brother, which is today the son thereof, he actually was working in the World Jewish Genealogy, helping my father in the genealogy part, putting in information in the computer and so on. But from that time till now, things changed, and he went on in different things in life, meaning different things for Klal Yisrael. He is now doing a big organization, heading a big organization in the New York, Brooklyn community that is busy with placing orchem, how do you say orchem in English? Guests coming from Israel, guests coming from other countries for doctor's appointments, for weddings, for after coming here for money from people, from Eretz Yisrael come to New York to raise money. Yeshivas come here, send here shluchim to raise money for their mosdas, for their institutions. They don't have where to stay, so he has an organization that has like 20 to 30 apartments, that he has like a couple hundred beds that he gives out for people without money. They should have where to sleep, because before that it was very hard for them to come. So that's his venture at this time. So I was just involved in the, as you said before, in the art part in the visualization of World Jewish Genealogy. I was actually a magachir in yeshiva for a couple of years after I got married, but then I had to bring home more money. I started to do art. So I was busy with hand art, drawing, calligraphy, other type of art. I had the honor to write a calligraphy certificate of honoring Rabbi Shmuel Kamenetsky when he was the Nasi of some kind of an organization. I made the certificate when the previous Satmar Rebbe, wanted that his son should become the Rav in the Williamsburg community, the current Satmar Rebbe of Williamsburg. So I made the certificate for that. I was busy with art, and then was busy with plaques for organizations. I did a plaque for Al Gore. At that time, he was vice president of the United States. I was doing the plaques for the Agudas Yisrael for 20 years. And then I made even a presentation for George W. Bush one time. I had the honor, the cover to do a plaque for Rabbi Don Segal. It was a plaque that contained the 12 stones of the Choshen. I studied a lot which stones were the real stones that were on the Choshen. I collected them. I put it on a plaque, presented it to him. And actually, my daughter is now having a new business on this. I'm doing bracelets with the stones of the Choshen. That's besides the point that we're doing. In any case, so with the time, I was drawing family trees also. One touching moment I had, I was drawing a family tree for a big Gvir, how do you say Gvir in English?
Philanthropist.
Big philanthropist in England. His name was Mr. Ben-Zion Donner. From the Baba dynasty. He was a grandson of the Baba Rebbe, from the previous, for Ben-Zion from before the war. He was giving a lot of money for organization. So they ordered a family tree, a ancestry family tree of his grandfathers and great-grandfathers. It was a beautiful tree. It was on cloth. It was on real parchment, framed. It was very expensive because that's the whole idea that I wanted to do with Trembly. It was very expensive. They took it to England and they gave it over to him like it was Ador right before Purim. It was 2 days before Purim. So they gave it over to him and he was literally crying when he got it. But that's just the moment of giving over such a precious gift for somebody is really, really lightening, I would say, because people getting such a gift, the emotions are really getting open, and it's a very strong gift. You can give for a person. And I was literally crying. But unfortunately, 2 days later, he got killed in a car accident. It was a very touching moment from one side and tragic moment on the other side. But, a family tree is a real touching gift you can give. I saw it numerous times. I had a lot of different ideas with family trees. My main problem was that my father wanted to have something that would work for everybody. And actually, I had a friend coming into my office and asking me, can't you get something, you're an artist, come up with something that would work for everybody? I said, please, I tried it already. It's impossible. He told me, no. I'm not taking a no for an answer. You have to come up with something. Okay. So I was at that time, it was about 25 years ago, 1998, approximately 1997. I don't remember exactly. I came up with a very brilliant idea. Shapes, a puzzle. I had a trunk, I had part of a branch, then I have another part of a branch, 2 branches. I had 9 parts. I came up with 9 parts altogether. And I actually patent pended it. And from these 9 parts, I was able to make any family tree. It was brilliant. It looked like a puzzle. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was very professional, but at least for locally, it was beautiful. But the good thing of this was that computerized, I would be able to do easily any family tree from these 9 pieces. I would connect it, combine it, and then have a family tree. Nobody would see that's a puzzle. Nobody would know how I put it together. So it was like a way that instead of paying for a graphic designer to design a new family tree for a couple of $1,000s, I came up with a way I could do it for a couple of $100. Super. Okay. So I showed it to my friend. He was willing to invest in it. He marketed it in the community locally. We sold family trees. But then I was trying to reach out to the United States, not only to the Jewish people over here, because this idea would work for everybody. It's a family tree. Everybody has a family tree. For everybody, a family tree will be the most emotional gift that could be given, even though that it's expensive a little bit. At that time, it was expensive, but at least it's a beautiful gift that I can market it. So what I did is I hired a graphic designer to make me 11-17 piece of marketing paper. I folded it. I bought a list of the gift shops of the United States from the engraving organization, and I simply mailed it. I simply mailed a 11-17 piece of graphic paper with the information on it, with possibility to buy samples, because you can't sell only if you have actual samples. These samples, I wouldn't be able to give away for free because it costs a lot of money to make these samples. But I gave a breakdown on it, and I have a whole list. This type of tree, I have a couple of types of trees I had at that time that can be made from brass, from wood, engraving, whatever, different type of trees, like 4 type of trees, colors, backgrounds. So I had a list of samples that can be bought, and for $150 you could buy the whole kit for less. You can buy only one for less. It was sent for 5,000 gift shops in the United States. Now, I don't know if you're in the marketing. I was told that to get back 0.01% of marketing is a nice number. 0.2%, 0.02% is the most possible you can get. In fact, I have the records on it. Over 1,000 gift shops were interested in the product. They wanted more information on it.
20%.
Right. It's amazing. But that's not all. I had over 100 gift shops from these 5,000 that actually bought samples, gave out money and bought samples to sell. To actually buy from 11-17 piece of paper, it brought to my attention that this is a real major opportunity to do something for people, for people to get a beautiful gift out. Not talking about for the Jewish people, we're talking about United States, everybody. So at that time, I made myself up that I'm sticking to this idea. I don't know how, I don't know when, but something will happen with this idea, with genealogy. This is something that it's worthwhile to put in money for. But unfortunately, those samples where, as I told you before, was unprofessional. So it didn't bring me any. I got orders, but not too much that I should stick to this type of family tree. So I actually put it on my back burner for a couple of years. Then I came up with an idea that the internet was getting strong. Came up with an idea that maybe I should do something on the internet. So, but I know the internet is a lot of money involved. I need a lot of money for that, which I didn't have. So I was trying to get partners for it. Took a couple of years. Then a friend of mine came in and heard of the idea, was really excited about it. He has money. He felt that he can make a difference. So he jumped in and became my partner. And now we're up to, Baruch Hashem, thank God, finished at least so much that we can launch. And I hope you went on Trembly.com and see how this website looks like. This is really an amazing website. I can't even stop, to have explained all the features that this website has. I'd probably need a book for it, but just to highlight a few very unique features that this website has. Basically, there is out there already Ancestry, Jenny, and all these type of genealogy websites. But first of all, nobody emphasizes on visualization of the family tree. You can't get a actually visualized family tree. You should be able to hang up on the wall with all your information customized to your family. That's the uniqueness of this Trembly.com. Besides that, we're talking about Jewish genealogy. We'll have a separate website for the Jewish genealogy, which will have little bit different features that will work for the Jewish people. It will be separate on the secular site, but the features are mostly the same. And I'm focusing on everybody, not just for the Jewish people on this Trembly.com. So first of all, there is 3 types of trees over here. There is a descendant tree, meaning that you can have a tree that is starting up with your, let's say, your father, or your grandfather, grandfather's children, and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. You can go up to 4 generations and display it on the wall, which is an amazing gift, which, anytime Hanukkah, you can give it, the secular world can give it on Christmas, on whatever. Any anniversary gift, birthday gift, anytime. It's a very emotional gift. And today, actually, the main thing is that this gift is like starting with $24.95. It's a really inexpensive gift. It's really, it's not a lot. You can do, it's beautiful. We're coming up with new different family tree visualization, graphic art trees from time to time. Right now, we have already retired one tree. We came up with another tree on our website, a beautiful, beautiful summertime tree. We're just working now on a wintertime tree that will come up in the next 2 weeks. This is the descendants tree. Then we have an ancestor tree going up from you to your father, your grandfather, all the way up to 10 generations. You can select how many generations you want, and it will display how many generations you selected. And the 3rd type of tree we have is the dynasty tree. Dynasty tree is that you want to have from yourself, let's say, we're talking now over here, Jewish people, so it's, you want to King David, a direct lineage till King David. And it's very hard for you to display a regular family tree with all the generations till King David, because it's very hard to design such a tree that go all the way to King David with all the generations in the sides. So we designed a tree that's called a dynasty tree, going directly from you till King David, or to Adam and Eve, Adam v'Chava, or in the secular word, going to any king or George Washington or anybody else, prominent person. That's the third type of a tree. Then in the trees itself, in the chart itself, well, there's a chart and then there's visualization trees. We have two different programs over here on Trembly.com. One is the chart that is the same as you find in Ancestor, Jenny, and all over, but we have a lot of features that's not there. Some of the major features that you can find over here is we have a thing that's called floating members, meaning you know that you're a grandchild of David HaMelech. Like I could say David HaMelech, I'd say the closer one of the Noida Behida. You tell me anybody that you know you're a grandchild, but you don't know exactly how, which is not so far, but you're missing the links still there. And because it's missing the links, and you know for sure that you're a grandchild of the descendants of this great Gadol, you want it on your family tree, but there's no way you could put it on because you don't have the link to him. But you still want him on your chart. You still want to display him on your family tree. So we made a thing that's called a floating member, which is you put in an ancestor and he's becoming a floating member. He is placed somewhere on the tree. If it's close by, it's with a line. If it's not close by, it's floating somewhere on your chart. And there's a number where you can find them in the index, and you click on it, you can get right there. It's on your chart, even though you don't have the link. It's one of the things. There are a lot of features. I will not list all the features over here. Now, the other feature I have over here that is space to mention over here would be called highlight cards. You have a great grandfather that you want to highlight him. You want to be able to recognize directly when you look on the chart. You should be able to find them very easily. You can change the look of that card in order you should be able to find them very easily. You don't have this in the other websites, and it's a very interesting feature, especially in the Jewish website, which you have a lot of gedolim, a lot of big sages. You want to they should be prominent on your website, so you can highlight it. And then, which is very important, if you do a family tree on Genealogy, Heritage, and all these websites, a full family tree, you will be getting a family tree that's it will be wide as a mile wide. It goes wider and wider and wider and wider. Everything that you put in, every name you put in, makes it even wider. So I put in a lot of thoughts in it because I was brought up with genealogy. So I know how genealogy works, and I know the better ways how to display genealogy. I came up with some bright ideas how to condense these family trees that when you open up your screen, you should be able to see more or less your family tree. You shouldn't have to scroll. I mean, if you don't have too big, my family tree is 1,500 names, so I do have to scroll. It's impossible to have displayed 1,500 names on one screen. But at least a regular person has 20, 30, 40 names on a family tree. In Jenny or all other places, you have to scroll right away. But in our website, Trembly.com, you don't need to scroll at all. For 20 names, it just sits in front of your screen because it's designed very clever and very condensed that it shouldn't expand so much. And we did a lot of effort on this, very lot of effort. We spent a lot of money on this that it should be condensed. Some of the ideas you can see right there that we did that on the descendants type of tree. Let's say I'm putting in my children. My son's all the same as his name is Avram Chaim. His wife's name is Esther. So instead of putting Esther and Avram Chaim side by side, as a couple, I did it that Esther will be under Avram Chaim because the chart is not displaying anyway Esthers Heritage, Esthers Dynasty, Esthers Ancestors, because it's not blood members. So I don't need to make place for her card. It should expand and make bigger the family tree. So I did it that it goes under the name. So it takes away a lot of space, meaning by siblings, we have 15 siblings, right? So in the other websites, we have 30 cards going across, 15 times 2. Everybody has a wife or a husband. So it goes 30 cards. There's no way 30 cards should be seen on the screen. But 15, 50, it's also impossible, but at least 7, 8 cards you can see on the screen. It's a nice big family, 7, 8 kids, and you can see the whole family on your screen. That's another big idea that I've implemented in the chart. Now, let's go back to the visualization part, which we have the family trees. There's families that have combined families, meaning that somebody has an ex-wife, has kids from this wife, kids from that wife. Some kids, the ex-wife doesn't want, it should be displayed on the tree, but the kids of the ex-wife he wants, it should be because it's actually his kids. So it's very hard to manage how his visualization family tree should look. He should be happy with it. It took a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of talking, a lot of meetings, how to work this out. And thank God, Baruch Hashem, we worked out a beautiful, beautiful way that on the chart and on the visualization tree, you can get the tree exactly how you want it. You want to have your current wife on the branch and the kids from from your whole family, you can have it. There's some kids you don't want because that kid, God forbid, doesn't want to know you. You don't want it on the tree. You can have this kid. He shouldn't be on the tree. But still, he is a blood child and he is a member of your family and he is in the genealogy lineage for the grandchildren that goes through that child. He will still get to you because this is a blood member. Blood member stays always a blood member. It was done very interesting how this was worked out. So there's a lot of different ideas that was put in this Trembly.com that the visualization should be perfect according to a person's needs and how should be comfortable with and how when he gets it, he should really be emotional about it. And the main thing, it's very inexpensive. You can get it, as I said before, for $24.95. You can get a family tree that was unexisting till today.
Is it the kind of thing where you have a database where people can plug in, and if they plug into an existing user base, it will automatically increase their own tree?
Let me focus on this now. Right. Our website, as of this point, still don't have database. So putting in the information of the family, everybody knows his current family, is easy. But if, let's say, he has a family tree in Jenny or in MyHeritage or in any other site, you can export that information into our system. That program is called Getcom, and you can import a Getcom file in our system that will generate a finished family tree for you in our site. Meaning that if somebody feels already, he's years already in Jenny, he's comfortable with it, but he wants a visualization tree, which he can't get in Jenny. So it doesn't have to re-put all the information again in Trembly.com. He just goes to Trembly.com and clicks on import Getcom file. And first he has to make the Getcom file from the file he is at. Let's say he's in Jenny, he has to make a Getcom file, put it on his computer. Then he imports that file in the system, and all of a sudden he has his own family tree. First he has a chart, and from the chart he's doing whatever family tree he wants to do. So I think I answered your question on this for now. Eventually, we will have a huge database, especially we're working now on the Jewish website. The Jewish website we will launch only after we have, I would say, about 50 to 60,000. There's not too many names out there in the previous books because most information got lost. And we're talking about accurate information. Taking information from Jenny, I would say, is the most ungenuine way to take information because there is a mix-up over there. And that's one of the problems over there itself. And we are focusing, we have a program that will be certifying information that is accurate. I wouldn't say accurate 100%. It's impossible to be accurate. That happened 100 years ago. but at least according to researchers, that would be accurate and certified by our admin process. And after that, after that is done, we'll be launching Family. Hopefully within 6 months, we'll launching Family. We call it now Family, but I'm not sure if we'll stay with this name. The Jewish website will launch probably in 6 months. I hope so. And over there, we would have a lot of database that people would be able to connect to get their information from the website itself.
What do you think is so meaningful to people about genealogy? It seems to have become very popular recently. In our world today, do you feel that people feel less rooted, perhaps, and are seeking some kind of a grounding in the past, a sense of belonging somewhere? What is it about today that genealogy has become more popular?
Yeah, I'll try to answer it first on the Jewish point of view. And from there, we can take it to the secular world. I'll start with my father's vision, which he was trying to create a connection from after-war to pre-war. People should be connected to the Messiah, to the previous generations. On the Jewish standpoint, it's very important. A person should stay centered with his Judaism. It's very important for himself that he should feel that he belongs to a Jewish family, to be connected. That's very important. That holds him at least a little bit. He should be en route Jewish. He knows his father, his grandfather were Jewish, and his great-grandfather was Jewish. It's very hard this time of the days that a lot of Jewish brethren are falling away with assimilation and so on. And the parents would really want that the kids should stay focused and stay Jewish and marry Jewish and so on. So it's a very great idea. They should keep genealogy. I'm not saying Trembly, but Trembly is actually the Jewish website of Trembly will be very oriented for Jewish people. It would be a very good idea to go on when it comes, but at least Trembly, or at least any genealogy site, to be focused on family. When you all mashpiyim, all how do you say mashpiyim? All
influencers, spiritual influencers.
Spiritual influences, when they're trying to talk to boys or girls that fall out, when they're talking to their parents, that it shouldn't happen. I heard one of you, Kalpes, other rabbis you had on your site. A lot of these influencers are saying for the parents, give love to the kids. They should feel rooted in home. They should feel comfortable at home, and so on. So that's part of this being rooted is not just being rooted to the parents itself, being rooted to the Judaism. Being rooted to Judaism, it's not just the parents itself. It's very important in order to be rooted to Judaism to know that his father is a Jew in generations. So it's very important genealogy today's time.
What can somebody do if they want to get started with genealogy? What's the best thing like a first step? If you don't know anything about it, if you don't have a family tree, or let's say you know your own family, but you don't know a whole lot about your lineage, what can somebody do to get started?
Yeah, okay. This is actually, it's a big job. It's a big, that's the whole idea that my father was busy with for years, because private people was literally very hard for them to get information. There is ways to do it. We have blogs on our website that explains exactly how to do genealogy searching, which is in libraries, to talk to people, talk to your parents, talk to your uncles, talk to your grandparents, great uncles, and so on. Get some names and get cousins and so on. Write it down. The main thing to write it down, let me tell you a very interesting thing. My mother-in-law, in great saint memory, she was a very special person. She had a great-grandfather, her grandfather, was named Baruch Aryeh. That was his name. And my mother went through the war. She was a young girl of 11. And she came over here. And simply, when all we got married, her kids, and we had to give names for our kids. So one of the kids, it was first her turn to give the name. So my wife asked her, Mommy, what name should I give for, it was born a boy baby, give me a name for this child. She said, oh, I know that we have a name in the family, which is Baruch Aryeh. It's a true story, but I don't remember how we're descended to him. But he should be a very close grandfather. I know he was from Gribov. Actually, my side of the family was from Gribov. So her grandfather was a prominent person in Gribov. I think she said he was the Dayan in Gribov, was, Poisik in Gribov. Well, but I don't know how we are descended from him. Okay, so I know, I believed her. We gave the name Baruch Aryeh, and we added the name, whatever, it's no difference. But then I made my research, and I found that in Gribov I found in the box, a swarm that in the back you have names that gave people that gave money to print the book. It's called premananten. People that gave pre-printing, they gave the money, they paid for the book. Then when the book is printed, they should get a book. The first name on the list in Gribov was a name Baruch Aryeh Weiss. Okay. Harav was say Harav Baruch Aryeh Weiss. So I know that my mother-in-law's mother's father was a Weiss. His name was Yankov Shapsa Weiss. He was living in Bardiev. It's no difference which town he live. So obviously, this Baruch Aryeh, it wasn't too long ago. It was like, I would say 50 years before the war. So it should be that the Baruch Aryeh was the father of Yankov Shapsa Weiss, which was simply my mother-in-law's grandfather. Simple grandfather. She didn't remember a great-grandfather. It's unbelievable. So my father was always saying, write it down. Have it in writing. If not, you will forget. So that's one of the slogans my father was always saying, write it down. If not, you will forget. Even it's a close grandfather. And I saw it myself on my own, my mother-in-law. So having written down everything, and you put it in on a website, you have an account, put it in a website, it's saved, and then your children will go on, and your grandchildren will go on, then you'll have a ancestry lineage that will get, and eventually you'll get more names from ancestors because more cousins are coming in, and they know names, everything connects, and the database will get them, it will send them an email that, hey, we got more information on your family, and you can bring in the name on your chart, on your family tree, and so on. So it's very, very important to have genealogy in this time of the day. Jewish community especially.
Can people collaborate on your website? Different parts of a family work together and kind of build a tree that ultimately converges?
Definitely. We have a collaborate button that you can send your family chart to whoever you want. They should go on and add names and so on. Definitely. We have a collaborate button for that.
Tell us a little bit what's the website? Just spell it out for everyone again. We'll put it in the show notes, and love for people to go there.
Okay. The name is Trembly. I would say it tree like a tree, and Trembly, that's family tree together. It's like a combination of family tree. Tree, MILY.com.
Fabulous. We're going to put it in the notes as well, of course, and encourage people to go there. It's such a wonderful tool, particularly for the Jewish community, where family and tradition is such a central part of our identity and of our whole justification for being, in a sense. And we're really grateful for the work you're doing. Your own family, of course, is an example of that amazing Jewish dynasty, that Jewish connectivity going back for generations, broad and deep, and is a wonderful example in and of itself. So thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for the work you're doing with this wonderful project, Trembly.com. Asher Halberstam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hopefully that people will be able to connect to their forefathers and become better Jews.
Amen.
This has been Ari Koretsky on Jews You Should Know. Please visit us at JewsYouShouldKnow.com and subscribe at iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you consume podcasts. Find us on social media at Jews You Should Know. If you'd like to become a supporter of this podcast, we would greatly appreciate that, and you can do so by visiting patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Jews You Should Know. Finally, if you have enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review so that we can continue to grow and introduce many more people to Jews You Should Know.